Marie Williams adjusted her favorite pearl necklace, a cherished gift from her late husband, as she stood before her bedroom mirror. At 62, she carried herself with the dignity and poise of someone who had weathered the storms of life and come out stronger. Her dark skin had aged gracefully, with laugh lines etched into her face, each one telling the story of happier times. Today, however, wasn't about memories, it was about her family, and she prayed that this visit would be different. She whispered a quiet prayer as she tucked a stray silver curl behind her ear. Lord, please let today be different. Her last few visits to her son Jordan's house had left her feeling strange, but she pushed those thoughts aside. Today was about family, about seeing her son, his wife, and her grandchildren. She needed this. The drive to Jordan's house took about 30 minutes, each mile stretching out with a mix of excitement and unease. Jordan and his wife, Lisa, had moved to a predominantly white neighborhood 3 years ago, shortly after their wedding. The pristine lawns and identical houses still felt foreign to Marie. They were so different from the vibrant community she had raised Jordan in, filled with the hustle and bustle of her childhood. Yet, she forced herself to look beyond the differences, to focus on what mattered: family. As she pulled into the driveway of their new home, her heart lightened when she saw her grandchildren's faces pressed against the window. Marcus, 5 years old, and Lily, 3, had bright, beautiful brown faces that made her forget any lingering anxiety. As they burst through the front door, nearly knocking her over with their enthusiastic hugs, her worries melted away. "Grandma, Grandma," they shouted in unison, wrapping their tiny arms around her. "Look how you've grown," Marie said, kneeling down to embrace them properly. Jordan appeared in the doorway, his broad smile mirroring that of his late father. "Mom, you're early," he exclaimed, his arms opening for a warm embrace that reminded her so much of when he was little. "Early, baby," Marie laughed. "I'm right on time. You know your mama doesn't run on CP time." She patted his cheek affectionately, enjoying the familiarity of his presence. Lisa appeared from behind Jordan, her blonde hair styled impeccably and her designer clothes complementing her appearance. She wore a crisp white apron over her outfit, a stark contrast to Marie's more modest attire. "Marie, so nice to see you," Lisa said, her smile warm but not quite reaching her eyes. "I'm just finishing up dinner, your favorite. I made my special jambalaya." Marie's stomach tightened at the mention of food, though she forced a smile. "That sounds lovely, dear." The inside of the house smelled of spices, but there was something unfamiliar in the scent that Marie couldn't quite place. The children eagerly dragged Marie to their playroom to show her their latest artwork, while Jordan and Lisa returned to the kitchen. "Look, Grandma, I drew our family." Marcus held up a crayon drawing proudly. Marie's heart warmed as she saw her figure drawn larger than life, standing proudly next to Jordan. The simple drawing was filled with innocence and love, but as Marie studied it, she noticed something that made her pause. Lisa was drawn much smaller, almost pushed to the side, hiding in the corner. Children's artwork often revealed more than adults realized. "That's beautiful, baby. You're quite the artist," Marie said, her voice filled with admiration as she ruffled Marcus's hair. Soon, the call came from the dining room. "Dinner's ready." Lisa's voice echoed, carrying a sense of finality. The table was set perfectly, almost too perfectly, Marie thought. It resembled a magazine spread rather than a family meal. Lisa served everyone with a theatrical flourish, taking extra care with Marie's portion. "I added extra spices to yours, Marie. I know how much you love it spicy," Lisa said, her voice sugary sweet. Marie took her first bite, her senses overwhelmed by the intense flavors. Something about the food didn't sit right with her, but she pushed the feeling aside. Lisa's gaze was fixed on her, waiting for her response. "How is it?" Lisa asked, leaning forward slightly, her eyes scanning Marie's face. "It's different," Marie replied carefully, taking a sip of water to clear the strange taste from her mouth. "You've certainly made it your own." As the meal continued, the conversation flowed around her. Jordan talked about his promotion at the law firm, the kids chatted about school, and Lisa dominated the conversation with stories about her social circle and her latest accomplishments. Marie contributed when necessary, but with each passing minute, she began to feel increasingly unwell. It started as a slight queasiness, a mild discomfort that quickly escalated into a burning sensation in her stomach. By the time dessert arrived, Lisa's special peach cobbler Marie's head was spinning. "Mom, are you okay?" Jordan asked, noticing her pallor. He reached for her hand, concern written all over his face. "You look pale." "I'm fine, baby," Marie said weakly, forcing a smile. "Just tired, I suppose. Maybe it's my age catching up with me." Lisa was immediately by her side, a concerned expression on her face. "Oh, Marie, you poor thing. Could it be food poisoning?" she asked, her voice dripping with feigned sympathy. "Though, that's impossible. I'm always so careful with my cooking." Marie waved her off. No, I'm sure it's nothing," she said, though something about the situation didn't sit right with her. The more she thought about it, the more she realized that something wasn't adding up. As the evening wore on, Marie's condition worsened. She excused herself to the bathroom, hoping to regain her composure. The cold water on her face did little to ease the dizzying feeling that overwhelmed her. When she returned, Lisa had already cleared the table, her movements almost too swift, too practiced. "Everything all right?" Jordan asked again, his voice laced with genuine concern. Marie nodded, though she wasn't sure she believed her own words. "I'll be fine. Just need a bit of rest." Lisa's face was a mask of concern, but Marie couldn't shake the feeling that it was all an act. Something about the way she had prepared the meal, the way she had been so insistent on Marie eating the special jambalaya, set off warning bells in Marie's mind. She had always been cautious about what she ate, and though the food tasted good at first, the overwhelming flavors had left her unsettled. The more she thought about it, the more she wondered if Lisa had planned this. Had she intentionally made her sick? The evening ended, and Marie was ushered out the door with the usual warm hugs from her grandchildren, though she couldn't shake the unease gnawing at her. The drive home was a blur. Her thoughts raced as she tried to piece everything together. Why had she felt so ill after every meal with Lisa? Could it be something in the food, or was it something more sinister? As the days passed, Marie's suspicions grew. The pattern was undeniable. Every time she had dinner at Jordan and Lisa's house, she became sick afterward. At first, she had brushed it off as coincidence, but now, with each visit, it was becoming harder to ignore. Marie knew she had to confront Lisa, but what would she say? How could she possibly prove that something was wrong without making a scene? The last thing she wanted was to cause trouble in her son's home, but the growing discomfort and her sinking suspicion were impossible to ignore. Days turned into weeks, and the situation grew worse. Marie had always been close to Jordan, and their relationship had been one of love and mutual respect. But the more time she spent around Lisa, the more she felt something had shifted. There was an undercurrent of tension she couldn't quite understand, and it was becoming unbearable. Marie had to find answers. She couldn't ignore the feeling that something dark was brewing behind closed doors. The once loving family dinners now felt like a trap, a carefully orchestrated plan that threatened to tear apart the bond between mother and son. With each passing day, Marie found herself drawn into a chilling web of betrayal, a web that would test the very core of her family's unity. She had to confront the truth no matter how painful it might be. The dinner table had become a battleground, and Marie was about to uncover a devastating secret that would change everything forever. Marie's stomach churned as the meal dragged on. The burning sensation in her gut only intensified, and a strange cold sweat clung to her brow. Her hands trembled as she placed her fork down, suddenly feeling like the room was spinning. Jordan's concerned voice reached her through the haze of her discomfort. "Mom, you don't look good. Maybe we should get you home and let you rest." But Marie couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something was wrong, something more than just food poisoning or a sudden stomach bug. She forced a smile, trying to reassure her son. No, baby, I'm just tired. It's probably just the heat or the long drive." But Lisa's eyes watched her closely, almost too closely, as though she was waiting for something. The innocent facade she put up was starting to unravel, and Marie felt her pulse quicken. Was it possible? Was she imagining things, or was there something far darker at play? As dessert arrived, Lisa's special peach cobbler, Marie's discomfort reached a fever pitch. Her heart raced, and the dizziness threatened to overwhelm her. She excused herself from the table, feigning a need for fresh air, but the moment she stepped outside, the cool evening breeze felt like a distant comfort. She barely registered the sound of the door closing behind her as she leaned against the wall, her breaths shallow and quick. In the quiet of the night, as she tried to steady herself, Marie's mind raced. Over the last few visits, her unease had grown. She'd been feeling sick after every meal with Lisa, something she hadn't experienced before. Was it really just coincidence? Or was there something more sinister going on? Suddenly, a sharp thought struck her. She had always trusted her instincts, and they were telling her that the unease she felt wasn't merely the result of a heavy meal. Her daughter-in-law's behavior, the way she had been so sweet but with a strange, insincere edge to it, her over-the-top concern, it all felt calculated, like a well-rehearsed act. Marie's suspicions mounted. Had Lisa been poisoning her? The idea was absurd, yet the more she thought about it, the clearer it became. There had been small, subtle signs, the unexplainable illness after every family dinner, the strange smell in the food, the way Lisa had been extra attentive to her portion. It was all too perfect, too planned. And then there was the way Lisa had practically shoved her aside earlier when she'd expressed concern about Marie's condition. Suddenly, Marie felt a rush of anger mixed with a deep sadness. How could this have happened? How could her son's wife, someone she had welcomed into their family with open arms, betray her in this way? But she didn't have the luxury of time. She needed answers. She needed to know the truth, even if it meant confronting the darkness in her own family. With newfound resolve, Marie walked back into the house. Jordan was seated at the table, his face drawn with concern, but Lisa was nowhere to be seen. "I'm fine, Jordan," Marie said, her voice firm. "But I need you to help me with something." "What is it, Mom?" he asked, looking at her with furrowed brows. "I need you to get me a glass of water, and I need to talk to Lisa." Her voice was steady, her resolve growing stronger with each word. Jordan nodded, sensing the seriousness in her tone, but before he could move, Lisa reappeared from the hallway, a tray of dishes in hand. She stopped short when she saw the look on Marie's face. It was no longer a look of the frail, concerned mother. Marie had found her strength. "Lisa," Marie began, her voice unwavering. "I need to know what's going on. I need to know if I'm right." Lisa's face faltered for just a split second. It was a small slip, but it was enough. Marie noticed the way Lisa's eyes quickly darted toward the kitchen, a telltale sign of guilt. "I don't know what you're talking about," Lisa said, her voice too sweet, too rehearsed. "What's wrong, Marie?" Marie stepped forward, her heart pounding in her chest. "You know exactly what I'm talking about. The food, the way I feel after every meal. The way you've been acting around me. It's not normal, Lisa." There was a long pause before Lisa finally spoke, her voice trembling, but her eyes cold. "You think I'm poisoning you?" she asked, almost mockingly. "How ridiculous." Marie stood her ground. "It's not ridiculous if it's the truth, and I think it is. You've been too careful, too intentional with your meals. What's in the food, Lisa?" Lisa's smile faded, and for the first time, Marie saw the mask slip. The sweet, innocent daughter-in-law she had once trusted was gone, replaced by someone entirely different. "You think you can take my place in Jordan's life," Lisa sneered. "That you can come in and be the center of attention, just like you always were? Well, I won't have it. You don't deserve him." "You never did." The words stung, but Marie didn't flinch. She knew this moment had been coming for a while. She had been patient, had tried to maintain peace for the sake of her family. But no more. Jordan stood, his face pale. "What are you talking about, Lisa? This isn't making any sense." But before anyone could say anything further, Marie spoke again, her voice icy and calm. "I've already called the police. They'll be here soon, and they'll find out what's been happening." Lisa's eyes widened with fear, and for the first time, she looked truly vulnerable. "You can't," she began, but Marie interrupted her. "Yes, I can," Marie said firmly, "and you'll have to answer for what you've done." In that moment, Marie felt a surge of relief. She had finally done it. She had exposed the truth. By the time the police arrived and Lisa was taken into custody, Jordan stood silently at Marie's side, his face filled with disbelief and regret. As Marie looked at her son, she could see the pain in his eyes, the pain of betrayal, the realization that his own wife had tried to destroy the woman who had given him everything. And as the truth came to light, Marie understood that sometimes the ones we trust the most are the ones who can hurt us the deepest. But in the end, love, loyalty, and strength would always win. And as she walked out of her son's house, with her head held high, Marie knew that this chapter of betrayal was over. But her bond with Jordan, stronger than ever, would remain unbroken.